Welcome to Town Hall 16. And we're going to do a little polling today, so we'll get to that in just a minute. Let's go to the next page. I did not see a note that said Mike wouldn't attend, so I assume he'll be here shortly. We'll have him on in just a bit. So let's go to the next slide here, rules of engagement. I'm going to talk for a little bit. If you want to speak, if you have something to share, and we also are having what I'm calling panelists. Mr. O'Shea from Aspire and Jonathan always speak, and I'm going to thank him for that. Andrew is a frequent speaker, so we tend to have some folks that'll speak up, so we kind of count on them to give us some feedback. But we do want you to check in with the chat for Zoom bombing purposes. If you feel compelled to talk to someone else, if you hear something, if you're new here, and let's say Tom is talking or Jonathan, and they're always giving great advice and always good information, and you want to know more, I know I speak for both of them when they say that if you go into the chat and you choose them personally, you could shoot them a text and probably either get on the phone with them or an email or Zoom or something else. They're happy to talk, and I think most people here are. If there's something that needs much more information or it goes deeper, we'll get that on Mike Lawson's show. And if you've got something for everybody to know, and this has been happening frequently, I'm really happy about it, please don't hesitate to just pop into the chat and post it. I usually read them if I see it, so really appreciative of that. This town hall will be recorded, and so if you've got something to say that you feel like should not be public, this is not the place for it. But we do hope that you will be candid and share. We're thankful for the people that do. I want to thank our sponsors. We've got Doug Burke on from the Credit Union Service Network. So thank you, Doug, for continuing to sponsor our town halls. And we have Mike from Super Broadcast. So very exciting to have some folks, our sponsorship. If you're interested in sponsoring a show, let us know. We can just reach out to Melissa. Let's go on to the next one. I think everybody knows this by now, but if you want to use chat, there's a pop-up. You click the chat button and it'll pop up. Seems like lots of people are checking in, which is awesome. I think we're okay from what we know here, but today you're going to see something a little new, which we're going to do here in a minute, which is some polling. And there's going to be a new little thing down there. It says polls. But when we do this, you should see it. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a quick poll, and I'll walk through them. So Melissa, if you want to launch the poll. So what I'm interested in, and you should have a poll that popped up on your screen. And what I'm interested in is, in this first question, if you reopen your branch, are you requiring members to wear a mask to enter? And I want to know the difference between whether it's yes, we're requiring them, or a local government mandate, or no, or our branches are still closed. So the next question I had, because this came up when I was out at a branch the other day. I was at a local credit union branch, not going to say who, and a lady was going in, and she had a mask, but her kids didn't, which is weird. But she explained that her daughter needs to get something because it can't snap behind her ears or something. And so, what would you do in that situation? And so I'm just interested, are we only requiring adults? Do kids need to wear them? And then the final one here is, do you feel that the requiring the members to wear a mask is presenting security issues? It's another multiple choice. So Melissa, if you want to move the slides forward there. So if you'll take a minute and answer these, we will actually share the results just for everybody to see. They're anonymous, so we don't know what you said. We're not requiring anybody to put information in about it, but it would be good, I think, for the group to know. While you're answering that poll, and she's going to let it run for a minute, we'll move on to the next slide, which is actually going to be Mr. Sarber is going to take the first slide today. For those of you that don't know, Kevin Sarber, former SVP of Westcom Credit Union, very large credit union out in California, current president of Best Innovation Group, lots of experience with the branches, the call center, all aspects of the credit unions. And he's been joining us and has some great input. And he had some thoughts today that I thought would be interesting. So Kevin, you want to take it from there?
Sure. Hopefully you can hear me.
I can hear you just fine.
took this in a little bit different direction. I think most of the people on the phone are looking from a technology perspective. This is more from an HR perspective, I think, than just technology. But our lives have changed, and I think at some point, some people are going to be going back to the old office environment they were in, but I do think we're going to have more remote workers than we had before. And how are we going to, keep those folks involved, keep them engaged, keep them knowledgeable of what's going on, and keep them productive? Just a few things, but I'm curious to know. I've seen some articles with some unique things that folks are doing to help from an HR perspective. But are there things that you are doing out there that you might be able to share with the group that are, helping to make those people feel more comfortable in their home office or at their kitchen table or wherever they may be working? Somebody might be willing to share to see what's been working, and how do we keep those people at the right place with the credit union.
I see Jonathan nodding his head. I think he might be our first person there.
Yeah. So I was just going to say that we transitioned to a very Zoom-centric environment. We chose Zoom, and it's worked very well for us. And I think one of the things that we've tried to do from a management perspective is really instill a sense of consistency among staff, whether they're working remotely or like myself, who I'm, for the moment, one of a few, handful of people in the office each day. Really working, we want people to feel like it's still our organization. We're still part of the same organization, and that, we're not altering our behaviors significantly for everybody. And so that really, to me, means, for example, tomorrow, I normally would have my all staff meeting with my 30 people that ultimately report up to me. And okay, you know what? We've transitioned those to Zoom. It's video based. We want to see people's faces. We want to see what they're up to. We want to make sure that, and for me, from a people management perspective, it's a way for me to sort of do a check-in, if you will. This be, not just what I'm hearing, but what I'm seeing on the other end. And then for my direct reports, for my 5 direct reports, I do twice weekly stand-ups through Zoom where we all have our video. And again, it's a way for us to maintain some of that connectivity at a personal level, even though we can't all be in the same room together. So I think the remote conference capability, one of the biggest things for us, and that we've really pushed with staff, is that it's not just getting on the phone with somebody. It's the idea that in order to remain engaged in this type of environment, you need to see the other people. And so we expect video as an expectation because it allows us to engage more actively with the other participants. The other thing that we're doing is actually a feature of our product or project management platform that we use in-house, which happens to be called Monday. The website is monday.com. We use that for sort of progress check-ins. We have all of our organization's critical projects out there. We have all of the project leads, project coordinators, project business owners checking in, so that as progress is being made, everybody on the management team can go out, see what's going on, see comments. And it also has a neat little feature that will, for each user in the platform, it starts out by sending you a note every day saying, okay, what's your focus going to be today? What do you want to accomplish today? And then at the end of the day, and then at the end of the day, it sends out a note saying, okay, so tell us how you did. What did you accomplish today? How do you feel? All of that good stuff. So it lets
Doesn't
us
it
sort
put it
of,
in like a feed window where everybody can
yes,
see everybody else's thing? Like it's
exactly.
almost like a
So
Facebook wall.
yeah, so for our team, especially on the, I mean, on the technical side, we're used to sharing this information every day,
Yeah.
and why we do our stand-ups twice a week at a minimum. It's really nice to see everybody that and what they've been up to and how they've been doing. And
So
I on
quick
yeah, go
question
ahead.
on that, Jonathan. Have you had any pushback on the video? Like, you know, I've had some struggles,
Yeah.
you know, with some folks who, you know, they're just not comfortable sharing inside their home, but they don't, the virtual, are they using the virtual background? Is that what you
So
guys
so
say?
I will say that that's one of the benefits of the Zoom platform is that people are largely using the virtual background. I mean, I sit here and I go, even though I'm in my office, like, you know, who wants to see my messy office all the time?
Right.
Uh, so it really is a benefit of the platform. And it's interesting, you know, I will say, you know, just my own 2 cents, but it's something to be said about these types of platforms. Um, you know, Zoom caught a lot of flack for a long time about the security of the platform, yet I think we identified very early that if you set up the platform with sort of common sense controls, you really weren't at much more of a risk than anybody else using any other platform. And what we found in evaluating platforms is that Zoom offered a lot of functionality. And then when we went back and looked at like WebEx and GoToMeeting and all of those that don't have sort of the virtual background piece and some of the other features, you know, we found that they weren't all that much better on their security
Yeah.
either. So I think, you know, that was something that we had to take account of very quickly. And we felt that the Zoom video platform, the Zoom conferencing platform really offered us the best feature set for managing a remote workforce. And, you know, thankfully we had the buy-in of our information security folks once we showed them how it can be configured. So I think that's important too, is really finding the right fit for that platform for your organization based on how you want people to conduct these remote interactions. And for us, you know, even though mine's glitching a little bit right now, the virtual backgrounds were a key feature of that because it does help sort of mitigate that privacy concern.
So, one quick question. You have, if I remember right, about 1,500 employees ish?
No, we have about 900.
900. How many of those right now are working remotely?
So well, I don't want to say all, but I would say about 90% of our back office staff is working remotely. So that accounts for about 300. Yeah, we're pushing about 400 people remote every day at this
Wow.
point. Branch staff are still reporting to branch locations, but they are basically functioning as contact center agents right now, or web agents. So
So they
they
might
are
as well be
very
remote.
much exactly. So rather than saying, well, we don't have anything for you to do right now, we have the best contact center metrics we have ever had in our because of the number of staff we have on the phone and handling our web agent conversations. So from that standpoint, it's actually been very nice to have this capacity because we were able to ramp up very quickly to handle. We got. I'm thinking back. We were looking at our phone statistics in April. We had 50,000 calls to our contact center, which is about 20,000 more than we normally have in a month. So having the ability to have those people on the phones in our branch locations connected directly into our Avaya phone system was a huge benefit. And so the good news is that they're sitting in very socially distanced, you know, conference rooms in the branches, our financial service rep cubes, the branch managers' offices. So they're able to be spread out, much like I am here in our corporate office, and maintain that level of continuity of service.
So thank you, Jonathan. Thank you so much. And I know we only have you for a short time, so thank you for
Sure.
taking the time to be with us today. I see Paul A. from First Financial in Albuquerque, New Mexico. I think he mentioned that they're using Skype. Paul, if you'd be willing to speak, I'd be interested to see from your perspective how Skype is working out from you from a tools. And then Kevin, if you had any other questions, I didn't mean to steal your thunder there. I think it's a great question.
Hi, this is Paul Apodoc with First Financial Credit Union in Albuquerque, New Mexico.
Hey, Paul.
My team is using Skype for daily check-ins. We always do one in the morning. We try to do one in the afternoon. And my original intention was that we really focus more on how people were doing, but we tend to get past that very quickly and start talking about what we're doing and how that impacts the rest of the team. So it's kind of grown a little bit off the direction I originally intended, but it works really well and people are very happy that we do that.
Now, are you requiring video like Jonathan was saying?
No, we don't require video. Some of the people will have it available, but most of them don't turn on. And when we do our phone calls, even though we're doing it by Skype, most of the people just tend to answer it without turning on the video also.
I could see that. Yeah, and I think that's going to be people's natural. I mean, there are people who, you know, they got their cameras covered with like Band-Aids and 6 other things because they're worried about it, particularly my wife, who has this great fear that one day it's going to turn on and get her, you know, in some meeting. But I think what I like about the, you know, having people use the video is it's sort of, I think it's important if you're going to work from home that you dress and get, you know, sort of be in that frame of mind, and knowing that you have to be on video helps with that. But no, thank you, Paul, for sharing that. And you find that you started off just thinking, hey, we're going to use these to check in, but they've turned into more business. It's interesting too, because if you think about it, our branches have been remote to us forever, and we never really used this. And really, honestly, this could have been used in the branches forever and ever. How many times have you had a conversation with someone?
It's John, it's amazing how, you know, it's funny you mentioned that. It's amazing how resistant people were prior to this pandemic in our institution to say, you know, oh, well, we're gonna really emphasize remote learning, remote community, you know, and video communication and that sort of thing. It was always, nope, we want people to come into one place. They're all going to travel. They're all going.
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden it's like, wow, this is great. You know, we can have these meetings and we don't have to have people going all over the place. And so I will say, I mean, you know, some of this, if there is any possible silver lining out of a pandemic situation, it is the forced rethinking of how we do business and how we do it efficiently in this type of environment. And, you know, I can tell you, we had a 10 Zoom accounts prior to the pandemic. We have hundreds now. So it's, you know, they're not going to go away. This is going to be a new way of life for us. And I think people have realized that while it doesn't replace in-person meetings altogether for certain things, it's sure a lot more efficient than people running around, you know, 50 miles each way from a branch for a 30-minute meeting.
Oh, absolutely. And the talking heads thing. I should say that Kevin and I worked with Kevin, 12 years.
Yep.
And we were never in the same place, ever. I worked out of Florida, and I think almost right away, and hats off to Kevin for this, because he recognized these issues. I think that's why he's bringing it up. You know, is he would really work hard to keep us in the loop. To if they did something offsite or at the credit union, like for example, In-N-Out is a big thing in California, and Kevin loves it, and he would just constantly order it. He would think of us and send something, have something done for the Florida office to do that. And I think that was really important. Now, you can't do that for everyone at home, but could you? You know, I mean, I'll throw this at Tom. This sounds like something Tom would do. Tom, you know, have you ever thought about like getting DoorDash for everybody that's working from home? You're a small credit union, so you could do that, but like everybody gets lunch or something.
Yeah, we've you know talked about how do we build that team and the camaraderie, because you're not in the same place. You don't have those social interactions. One of the things with the virtualized environment that we're in, and we're a Teams, a Microsoft Office 365 shop, so we just ramped up our usage of Teams and SharePoint, and it's really worked out well for our folks. But it's just, you know, it's purely business. There is no social interaction. So we've been talking and wrestling with how do you bring that social aspect to the credit union, and for me, get the pulse of our people. You really don't. I mean, the communication in this environment is very deliberate. Like every day we have a call at 3:00, my executive team, obviously except Wednesdays.
Because you're not going to pass them in the hall, you know?
Right. And I was always one to come in the morning, say hello to everyone. So they would get my temperature and I would get their temperature as well. You don't get that when you're virtualized. So how do you bring that back? And I'll tell you, and I talked about this a number of weeks ago, and Mike gave me a shout out. He did a feature on me on his CU broadcast, was our tulips. So when we
picked that out from this,
to buy the tulips, the responses, the emails I got, people were crying because they were able to share with their friends and family and loved ones these flowers, and it was fabulous. It was really, really cool. But yeah, it's definitely an issue on how to maintain the teamwork in a deliberate digital environment and not have that casual social interaction. It's tough.
It is. So just in case you're tired of looking at Jonathan, and I apologize for that, Melissa's machine is locked up and she's working on it. So we would have spotlighted Tom. So sorry, Jonathan, but she's
okay, John, no problem.
Yeah, it wasn't that we don't want to look at Tom. Jay Eichstadt, I'm get to break out my German a little bit. If it is German, it usually Stadt would be STADT. But he said they sent everyone cookies. So, Kevin, just from your perspective, did you have, like I said, you did so many different things. What are you thinking in terms of the workforce and, especially with the call center and you having run a call center for so long?
Yeah, I think, it's unique things trying to kind of capitalize on the opportunities that we have provided by Zoom. I thought this question might go towards technology, and it did, but I'm talking about more like, the call center has done, wear your sports jersey of your favorite team today. They've done, like you said, lunches. They've even done virtual potlucks where everybody's made their dish. They put it on so that people can see it, and they've shared the recipes among the staff.
Could I do my own cooking show? Could I head to my kitchen and tune in to watch John make hot dogs in the microwave?
I think it's called Worst Cooks in America. I think that's
something like that.
I think you're getting into Twitch streaming then, John. Sorry.
Yeah, come watch John microwave a hot dog every day at noon. I could see that.
We do, John, have our call center has a virtual happy hour on Thursday afternoons.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. So everybody gets beers, or how do you do that?
I don't ask. They're home.
Yeah, you're a smart man, Tom. I've always respected you for that. You know how to run HR. Oh, look at this. And Gary talks about that his CEO hosts a social hour on Fridays via Teams. There's a lot of really cool stuff going on. I mean, that's really slick. Like, Jonathan, it sounds like you guys are mostly business, but, have you thought about, that might be something to look at?
Yeah, as this goes on, we've started to do, and our contact center is definitely doing more social type things with that. They do sort of social get-togethers. I don't know exactly what they've been doing, but they have done some of those with the Zoom meetings. One of the things that we're starting to do, and our marketing team is actually trying to coordinate this a little bit more from a company-wide perspective, is use some of the Zoom webinar functionality and at a higher participant level than what the standard Zoom accounts will do, and actually schedule some more of these type of more casual get-togethers. And the interesting thing too is we have seen staff, not just through our corporate Zoom and accounts, but we've actually seen staff sort of embrace this idea of interacting socially virtually as well. And, there are lots of examples through the organization of social groups that were getting together prior to the whole pandemic situation, and they've transitioned to virtual get-togethers. I know it's interesting, the sort of group of people, the VP group, who, would routinely get together and talk about things at Hudson Valley. We've transitioned largely to virtual sort of informal gatherings. So I think there's also been an interesting phenomenon just happening organically, where social groups that are part of the organization, have been part of the organization, ultimately have transitioned themselves to doing these virtual meetings or virtual get-togethers versus the organization having to formally sort of schedule informal of get-togethers.
Yeah, it's funny. I think that's necessity is the mother of invention. So I guess you guys are all lucky. You're doing nice things. Doug Burke just had 10 people talk about all the great things they did. I want to give him a second, but before I do, this is what I do for my staff. So I don't tell them, but I randomly ship them weird things, and this ball is one of them. Everybody got one. Kevin should have one, right, Kevin? You've got yours?
I do.
And I just randomly will ship everybody something that I like out to everyone, and it's a surprise. And usually, how many days did you not know where it came from, Kevin?
Yeah, it did take me a little while to figure it out.
So yeah, that was, that's kind of the kind of thing I do, but that, that's just me being weird, and I have a small staff. But I think, Tom, you could pull that off. It'd be fun for you to ship.
You make that on your 3D printer?
Oh, you should see what I've been making on my 3D printer. I should do a whole different way to pull that together at some point and show you
You can do
guys.
some customized plaques for your staff, their name,
Oh yeah.
logo.
I'll do busts. I'll do 3D busts of everyone.
There you go.
So yeah, everybody's doing all these great things, and Doug starts off every meeting. Doug, you want to just pipe in for a second? And Melissa and I are just doing a second here, trying to fix this other side of it. But Doug, share what you were doing.
Yeah, so we have a committee.
Hey, Jonathan, turn off your video. I think it'll help. Sorry.
So we have a committee at work where kind of recognition and different types of things, and they've got it started for every staff meeting now. They kind of do something. It starts off more social. Bring your pet to work. So now you see all the dogs and cats and everything else show up on the screens, or what's your favorite sports team, or we use Teams, and they'll post pictures of their favorite vacation or mementos. So we try to just kind of not have it as business oriented for the first 5 minutes or so. Try to get people that aren't really going to talk. They tend to talk or ask questions, and then we can't do it all the time, but we got everybody had a meal or something sent from DoorDash to everybody 1 week, just to break it up and do something different. So it's challenging remotely, but we're trying to add a social piece. And I know the same group as one of the people in accounting, his wife is expecting, so they're going to do a virtual baby shower, I think next week or the week after, something like that, for whoever wants to attend. So they're just trying to reach out in different ways, things that normally happen in the break room or other, and try to integrate it into some of the day-to-day.
I think that's key, and I think that's what you were kind of talking about, Kevin, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, and I think it's so incredibly important. You're right. I mean, you cannot you couldn't possibly overestimate the effect that it has, and I know that for certain, being a remote worker, having been a remote worker for years and years. I mean, I was a senior vice president and a remote worker, so I know that it's easy to start to fall into this mode when you work from home, that nobody remembers you're there, or that you're not being appreciated, or it's easy to tell these stories to yourself when you work from home. So I think I applaud everybody who's doing something like this and trying to push forward. I also applaud everybody for their use of the technology. Teams, the other things we're seeing, it just, it can't say enough. And I do think that this is the kind of thing I hope becomes the new normal. I hope this becomes what we do with all of the branches and all of those things. I said for years that there's no reason we couldn't, do this. The chat actually is really, really important, even when it's not voice or video, just having the ability to ask that quick question. So I applaud all of you for that.
And John, Paul put a bunch of, one of the things is you lose that kind of that informal communication that takes place during the day, where you used to walk in, see somebody walking down the hall, be able to talk to somebody. They've got some great, kind of conversation starters where they've got some different things out there. And I know my wife's company, they have 15,000 employees. Her division is doing a lot of these type of conversation starters that and some of them turn into just hilarious commentary that goes on for
Oh yeah, but I could totally see that. And like that ball, it might look weird, but when you get on a Zoom call and everybody's got the same toy in their hand, I mean, that was kind of the purpose of that. But it started off because I've had one for years, and I think you commented on it. What the heck is that? And so I sent everybody one. But there's some inclusion to that too, to everybody sort of eating the same food at the same time, or there's something to be said for that as well, I think. Well, since we've got the poll results, we're struggling because if Melissa, her computer froze up, and no, it's not because she has a cheap computer. I bought her like a crazy good computer. It's just stuck at the moment. But I'll give you the results here. I'm going to share those. We'll post them because we got a screenshot. She took a picture of it. But here's what we got. If you have reopened your branch and you're requiring members to wear a mask to enter, or are you requiring it? So 29% said yes. We had 14 of the 24 folks on the call. Some of you aren't in this position, so I can understand why you wouldn't answer. We had of that, whoops, it zipped out here, hang on. Of that, we had, nobody said that was a local government mandate. 14% said no, and 57%, or 8 out of the 14, their branches are still closed. So that's interesting. If they're required to wear a mask, we also require the children to wear them. This was just interesting. 14% still said, yeah, we're not requiring anybody to wear them. 7% said, no, only adults. And then 21% said, everyone must wear them. We can't see the security one because it rolled off the screen. I'm going to see if I can get those results later. As we're closing out here, I want to jump over, but there was a quick question, which was about masks. Let me just find it here. If you have sneeze guards, by the way, everybody should have seen the poll results. I put the poll results back up. Melissa figured out her problem, which was awesome. And so you can see the final piece of the poll results. You should be able to look at them if you want. The quick question he had was, are you requiring masks if you have sneeze guards? Maybe since we don't have a poll set up, you could just put your answers in the everyone chat so he could see. That would be awesome. It was a good question. And then before we roll out, I wanted to just really quickly check in with Mike, who just joined us. Mike Lawson. Mike, you there?
I am. Howdy. Sorry for my tardiness. I had an interview run long, so.
Not only that, but you're not even on video. Where are you at?
Am I not on video?
There you go. Let me spotlight you. There you go.
Hey.
All right. Woo, you're there.
There we be.
Yep.
Hey, I'm really glad you did this poll on wearing masks because I just interviewed yesterday Todd Sheffield from Community First in Santa Rosa, California, and they have put together a pretty cool Andrew's got the thumbs up, a pretty cool solution for wearing masks in their branches. What's that?
We're going to copy it, so thanks for that.
Oh, are you? Okay.
Yeah,
it's really neat. They're on correlation, and they use some, I know you guys know this technology stuff way better than me, but they just use some stuff in Keystone and they're since they're California, on the back of California driver's license, there's a QR code. And so when you enter the branch, they just scan that QR code to identify you. And then you can go and then you can go straight to the teller without pulling out your driver's license again. So that's
So
that's
the
just a
point
quick
is-
and dirty explanation of it.
So, but what you're saying is the question we had in the polling was whether it was a security problem. What we found a couple of weeks ago that some people who had opened their branches here in Colorado were stopping people, positioning them in front of the camera and pulling down the mask.
Yeah.
And what you're saying is the way they got around that was scanning the license
Yep. Yeah.
on the way in. That makes sense.
Because their first solution, he said, was kind of a TSA type nightmare where they were having the members show their driver's license at the door, and then they would go up to the teller line and show their driver's license again, and it just created just this clunky backlog of people in the branch, and so they didn't want to have that, so they developed this really cool little efficient system, and based on Andrew's reaction, it sounds like it's pretty neat. So yeah.
I
posted the story today. If you guys want to go check that out, it's on the homepage
on cubroadcast.com.
Yeah.
What this makes me think of, though, and I'm back to this. And Tom from Aspire, I know you were thinking about doing this. Does it make sense to have some masks on hand to give to somebody if it is that they want to come in and don't have one? Or, I mean, is that something that you would consider?
Yeah, up here in particular in the Northeast, where we are still just constantly kicking the can with reopenings and things like that, it would definitely make sense to have that because we're so dense in population that having that available for our members would be something.
I think people would come just to get a free mask.
Yeah, I mean most people will get
an Aspire logo.
I'm telling you, it needs to be an Aspire logo. But I think it's no different than having umbrellas at the front door when you live in a rainy area, or, I see it as being sort of the same courtesy. Eventually, I think we'll pull them out like rubber gloves from a box that we can hand to people.
So we're since we are digital credit union, we have one small member service center with 2 staff members in it. We're actually going to wind up going to an appointment-based visit, since it's not a transaction. You're not coming in to make a check deposit or a cash deposit. That's not our business. So it's more of a, sit down at the desk and maybe talk about or close on a home equity or something like that. We're going to go more appointment based for people to come in. So that'll thin the numbers of people and make it more manageable for members and our staff in dealing.
Yeah, and it's good tech. You can record them. There's a lot to it. I know that's what Gary was talking about with Glia. Glia is a similar system. And I think it's, to be fair, this isn't, Unitas has been doing that, playing on that kind of stuff for a long time. No, it's fascinating in that regard. Well, let's do this. I want to close out, and I always am interested in what's going on in New York. Don't go away, because I was going to shift to you. Just because, I think it's the early warning signs of, what happens there is sort of floating across the country. How are things going in New Jersey, and New Jersey still being one of the harder hit areas?
Yeah, we're still pretty loaded up with deaths. I did bring up the New York State statistics on all of this. One thing that's very interesting that they don't talk about too much is that in New York State, 90% of the fatalities, which was 21,000 out of 23,000, had a comorbidity of some type, whether it was hypertension or diabetes, dementia, or heart disease. So there was a lot of, because of the numbers we were able to get a lot of good data on this. And the number of people over the age of 70 or 60 even, as a proportion to the total was I don't have the specific number, but it was huge. It really was an indicator. And then when you drill that down further and go into nursing homes, almost 50% of the deaths in the state were in nursing home related. So
have you done any research on how many members you lost, Tom, specifically?
We're not aware of any members that we lost at this stage.
Wow.
I would know, and we haven't heard of any. And
I know Jonathan has
somebody, but so far, knock on wood, we've had family members of staff that we've lost.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
I know Jonathan talked about actual members that they've lost, and they're tracking those. But it's interesting to think about the over 60 and looking at that asset liability and what that means for transitioning. Again, back to what we talked about for families and friends. Yeah. Well, again, I'm really glad that there was some, you know, I'm always happy when there's some positive outcome, and it's not surprising to me that Gary was a catalyst for that for last week. I'm super thankful for him jumping in and sharing that. If you haven't run these jobs to go determine, you know, well, John or Tom, you could do the correlation thing pretty easy, but you don't have branches, but you could still scan them on the screen if you wanted in Zoom. If someone holds up their license and you had the scanner, it would work. Just saying it out loud. All right, folks. Well, I'm off to deliver my mom some 3D printed birthday gifts and milk because she's not allowed to go to the store. But I want to thank everyone for taking the time. Also, I want to encourage you guys, you know, those of you who've been coming every week, please get the word out. I'd like to grow this. I want to keep doing this. I like it. I like my panel. That's why I'm keeping doing it. I'd like to see it grow some. So if you've got friends or know anyone other than Andrew, we know about Andrew's friends. Please, please, please share it, forward the invitations, do whatever you can. I'd like to, you know, take advantage of the, I'd like to take advantage of this technology and continue to do this. I'm just, even one person finding some help in it is huge to me. It's been a huge, big deal. And I thank everybody who contributes every week, including Tom, Jonathan Silly, all you folks, and Mike and Andrew, the whole group. So thank you again, guys. Have a great day.
Well done, John.
Good to see you, John. Thank you.